Hello and welcome to Boyd's Blue Alpine Freeze Drying channel. Today I'm going to be freeze drying a whole bunch of canned fruit that we have. We've got a bunch of canned fruit in our storage that that hasn't been used yet, so I've decided to just go ahead and freeze dry it. So I'm just draining out the juice. We decided, I thought about rinsing off the extra syrup to try to make it a little bit less sugary, and we're not sure if we're going to reconstitute it as fruit cocktail and peaches or if we're just going to use it like snacks. And if we eat it like snacks, my wife thinks that the grandkids are going to like it a lot more with all the sugar in it. So we've decided to go ahead and just leave the sugar or the syrup on. Well, it'll probably crystallize with some sugar on it. It'll probably be a little bit a little bit sweeter than it would be if we rinsed off the extra sugar, but from what I've seen on other videos, I don't think it's going to be too big of a problem as far as having extra sugar on there. It just a little bit sweeter. But I don't know how many trays I'm going to need. I think I'll probably end up with all 5 trays. I've got mostly fruit cocktail, a couple of cans of peaches, and then if I have room, I've got a couple of cans of Mandarin Oranges as well. So I will go ahead and just continue opening up these cans, straining out the juice or the syrup, and putting the fruit on my trays, and then I'll freeze dry them. When it comes time to start the freeze dryer, I will show you what settings I use for the freeze drying. I do remember when we picked up our freeze dryer, we were talking to Corey at Blue Alpine Freeze Drying. He suggested that fruit is one of the more fragile items, especially pre-canned fruit, because it's really soft. He says it really has a chance of collapsing, so you want to run it at a lower temperature than other fruits or other meats and stuff that could handle a higher temperature in the freeze dryer. So we'll probably be setting this at about 105, 110 degrees. I can't remember what the settings are what the recommended settings are in the book, but I'll look that up and we'll show you that when we get it started. But for now, it looks like we're getting about 3 or 4 cans, maybe 4 or 5 cans of fruit on each tray. We've got 2 cans of peaches and then a bunch of fruit cocktail. So I will just stick this in my freeze dryer. First I got to weigh it so I know exactly how much we're getting. So I'm going to weigh this before I put it in. I'll record the weight, and that way we'll know exactly how much water was drawn out of it when we're done. So I will turn on the freeze dryer. This time I haven't zeroed it out with the tray weight, so I'm going to have to test. I'll just have to weigh it with the pan, and I'll just subtract the weight of the pan afterwards. So let's see here. So this scale that I bought it specifically because it has an app that you can read the weight, because these pans tend to cover up the size of this. It covers up the weight numbers on the scale. So I'm trying to. Looks like when it started it with that weight, so I need to reset this. Maybe I can just weigh an empty weight. I found these are within about 4 or 5 grams of each other, so if I weigh an empty one, most of them are about between 1,005 grams and 1,013 grams. They're usually within 8 or 9 grams, I think, with the overall weight. The overall weight of the food doesn't make that much difference, a couple of grams. So this is 1,440 grams, or I think it was about 15 ounces of fruit, so about a pound of fruit that's going in for the first batch on tray 1. So I need to write that down. It's like 1,440. Okay, so this is the Mandarin Oranges. I did 3 trays of canned fruit cocktail and ended up with 1 tray of Mandarin Oranges. They are touching each other. I didn't have a problem with peaches. The other fruit I've done where they've been in touch with each other. Sometimes when once they're freeze dried, it might break it apart, but I don't really care if these are complete orange slices are broken, because they'll probably just be thrown into a fruit cocktail or something where they'll be maybe drop it into rehydrated, throw it into a Jello salad or something where it won't matter if it's a full orange slice. So that's what I've got for now. I've got 3 trays of fruit cocktail. I think I might go look for some more cans that might need to be freeze dried. They're getting closer to date. Right now these ones are all getting close to their expiration date, and so I know I've got more cans that are a little bit newer, but just so I can fill the whole freeze dryer up, I might go find a few more cans for that. But for now, I will be back if I find more cans. Well, I couldn't find any fruit cocktail that was really getting old, so I did find some tomatoes, some diced tomatoes that were becoming a little older than the rest of them we had, so I go ahead and grab 5 cans of that, and I'm just going to freeze dry the tomatoes. So basically I do it the same way. I just strain out the juice. This juice is actually pretty good to use. I just add tomato juice. I've got some canned V8 juice or canned tomato juice, and I usually just add this stuff directly to that, or use it to make a Bloody Mary or Virgin Bloody Mary, which is one of my favorite drinks. So I'll just use this and spice it up and maybe make a icy tomato drink out of it. So rather than throwing away this juice, that's how I use it. I'm just going to go ahead and freeze dry all these tomatoes, and that way it'll not have to worry about being used right away, and we can use the ones we've been using, and we'll have plenty of tomatoes in our storage, and we'll have some left over now. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to weigh this now, and once it's weighed, I'll record the weight, put it in the freeze dryer, and then I will start the freeze dryer. Now, this is the third time I said I was going to do it, but this time I actually will, because the freeze dryer is full. So let me weigh this. Okay. There you go. Okay, the fruit is all inside now, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing a lot of fruit and vegetables like this. I've got a whole bunch of canned goods I'm going to be freeze drying in the future, so rather than having to change my temperatures from 115 to 108, I've decided to run this food at 108 degrees just because the fruit is a little more delicate, and the higher temperature can cause the fruit to kind of collapse and harden, and doesn't keep its original shape. So the lesser temperature will help keep the original shape. So I'm going to show you how to change that. So I'm going to go in and hit edit, and I'm going to edit the fruit settings. And so here I can either add time or reduce time. So if I want to, I could add the freeze time to say 7.5, 8 hours, whatever to give it extra time. And I can also change the temperature here from 115 down to 108, which I'm going to do that. And that way 7 hours later when I come down, it's not going to, I don't have to worry about coming down and changing my temperature after it starts. The other thing you can change is the mTORs here. I'm going to go ahead and leave that at 600. Increasing that a little higher will maybe speed it up a little bit, but it also risks putting more water into the pump oil. And so I will go ahead and leave that at 600, and then go from there and just go back, and that will keep these settings for the next save and exit. That will keep that setting now for the fruit. So this time I'll just go ahead and pick fruit, and you'll notice now it's 7.5 hours, 20 hours, and 108 degree temperature instead of the 115. So that's the simple way to change this. It works out really well, and then next time I run it, it'll have the settings if I ever want to change it to back to 115 or 110. If I start doing a different type of fruit that needs a higher temperature, I can change it that way, or I can just wait and do it during the cycle. So that's what I'm going to do. So right now, let's go ahead and continue. Just making sure the door's closed, the drain valve is closed, which it is. Let's continue there. And it starts up the freeze cycle. So this will freeze cycle for 7.5 hours, and then it will kick on the vacuum and start freeze drying it. And so in 27.5 hours, I will come back down and video the results of what I have. And if we need more time, we'll add more time at that point. But for now, I do have fruit cocktail, Mandarin oranges, and tomatoes, all 3 different fruits. But they're all similar enough in consistency that I think they'll dry at about the same amount of time. Most of them are about the same size too. So anyway, thank you very much for watching this, and if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will read and respond to those, and we'll be back tomorrow night with the results. Thank you. It has now been 35 hours, and I had to add 15 hours to the original 20-hour dry time. The tomatoes now are completely done. The diced tomatoes are looking really good and dry. So I'm going to go ahead and take those out. The Mandarin oranges were still a bit sticky, and you just kind of see that some of them are squishing. You can feel that they're still moist. I scraped them up off of the silicone mat just because where it seemed to be the moistest was down at the bottom where it stuck to the mat. So I just turned them all over, which will add some more air in there and get the moisture where it stuck to where the silicone, the juice was sticking to silicone. It's really sticky at the bottom. So I've just lifted that up off of the mat, or off the silicone tray, and that right there is still pretty sticky and moist. You can just kind of see where it's squishing and not dry hard at all. So we've got another 5 or 6 hours to this and see how that worked. The fruit cocktail was the same way. It's a lot drier than the Mandarin Oranges were, but they can still feel when I squish it. I can just still feel that there's some moisture in there. That's kind of squishing to see that grape as it squishes rather than crumbling like it would if it was dry. So I'm putting the fruit cocktail back in for a few more hours. I now just have to make sure the vacuum seal is closed, make sure the door's closed and the vacuum drain line is closed, and I'll select add more time, and it automatically adds 2 hours. I'm going to go ahead and add another 6 hours, just because I don't know how much time it's going to take, but I'm just going to give it 6 hours just to be sure. And that's it. So it's really easy to add more time after I close it, lock it up, lock the door, shut the drain valve, and turn it back on. And in the meantime, I will go ahead and box up and weigh my tomatoes, and we'll check back in 6 hours, see how it's looking. I had to extend the time a couple of times to get the fruit cocktail. I also ended up taking the fruit cocktail and turned it over to get the bottom, which was seeming to not really dry out when I was touching the silicone. So I kind of broke it up a little bit to help break it up a bit. It looks like it's now done. I think altogether it's about 38 hours, almost, yeah. I guess I added 15 to 20, so it'd be 35, and I added 3 more. So we're talking about 38 hours for that. And I think that the Mandarin Oranges are feeling really close to done, but there's still just a little bit of squishiness in some of them. Most of them are dry, but there's a couple I can just feel the moisture still inside them. So I'm going to give them another 3 or 4 hours. But I'm going to go ahead and take out the fruit cocktails now and weigh those, and then put I'm going to take these out and weigh them and bag these up, and then I'm just going to put the Mandarin Oranges back in for a couple more hours to make sure that they get fully dry. So that's good for now. We'll come back, and it'll be about 41 hours. I think I'll give them 3 more hours. It'll be another 41 hours for the Mandarin Oranges. So a lot longer. This is the second time I've had something that's run more than 25 hours, and I don't know if it's because I'm putting in such large batches, or if it's because I am combining different foods. I've seen another video where the guy has, he mentions that when you're putting in different types of food in different trays, that some of them dry faster than the others, and then the machine thinks that it's all dry, and so it doesn't continue drying the way it could. So by taking out these other foods, maybe this one will dry quicker. So I will try to put this back in, close my door, and close the dryer vent, or the pump vent, and we'll give that another 3 or 4 hours. So check back later. So the oranges, about 10:30 last night, when I'd finished up the other fruits, I noticed there was still a bit of moisture in some of these oranges, so I went ahead. I was going to add a couple hours, but I decided to add another 10 hours just to make sure it got absolutely dry during the night, and it looks like it has worked. It's now been I think this one took like 45 hours altogether. So I don't know if that's because I'm putting in different fruits, and so the fruit cocktail gets done at a different hour, and then leaving that dry one in there, the sensors in the machine that think it's all dry stops pulling it out, I'm not sure exactly how that works, but for some reason when I've done either really large thick batches or when I've done a batch with different types of fruit, the more thickly or the more dense food, or maybe in this case the more wet food, has a tendency to take longer to dry and seems to never finish until I get the other foods out of there. So I'm not sure what's causing this, but the food is now done, the oranges are now done, so I'm going to go ahead and package those up, and I'll weigh those and package those. And I just wanted to point out how this took. It took 40 hours at the same settings that the tomatoes took about 18, and the fruit cocktail took about 35. So I don't know why it's taking so much longer for this fruit, but it did, and that's the result. So we'll talk to you later. Well, thank you for coming to my channel. The experiment with the different fruits, the tomatoes and the fruit cocktail and the Mandarin Oranges, I thought tomatoes went really well. They were done in about 18 hours. The fruit cocktail took 35 hours. I had to almost double the time that I originally started with. I'm not sure if that was because of how many cans I put on each tray, and if I just had it packed too thick. I might try it again with a smaller volume on there. But the one that surprised me was the Mandarin Oranges. I don't know if it really did surprise me. My wife tried to dry some in a regular dehydrator, and she said that it took over 3 days to dry them in a dehydrator, and when she was done they were just little tiny shrivels of Mandarin Oranges. They were nothing that was really usable. It was just really chewy little bites of orange and didn't resemble any kind of Mandarin Orange. At least these looked like Mandarin Oranges. It just took a long time to dry. I think it was just a lot of moisture in them, and I ended up having to extend it. I don't really know how many hours it took, because after 38 hours it was 10 o'clock at night, and rather than adding 2 or 3 hours and rechecking it in the middle of the night, I just extended it for another 12 hours and checked it the next day when I had plenty of time for it to run. So I'm not sure exactly how long it took, but I did run it for I think 45 hours altogether. So I guess I added 10 hours of 35 hours, not 38. But anyway, it has all worked out well. I've packaged all up. I've got plenty of food now. The fruit that would have expired in the cans is now going to last me for another 20 or 30 years. So I should have plenty of fruit, at least the fruit cocktail, and you know, a couple of oranges will last a few more years, so it won't be a year's supply, but you know, be a lot of food for snacking on, if nothing else. So anyway, thank you for coming to my channel. If you're getting anything out of my channel, please like and subscribe. If you know of anybody who's looking for a freeze dryer, maybe steer them towards a Blue Alpine Freeze Dryer. I have found that generally speaking, everything runs about half the time of other brands. And I do know that there's new brands out, or new machines out there with other brands that are trying to compete directly with Blue Alpine by changing their settings and allowing people to do things like the candy in 2 hours, where before it was a 24 to 36 hour process. So there are other machines trying to compete with Blue Alpine, but I would say let's go with the American made product and support this company out of Idaho that is, in my opinion, doing an amazing job. So thank you very much for coming to my channel. I appreciate your support. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a comment below and I will respond to any comments that are left, and have a good day.